Pidgey, the Pokemon that was, for many pokefans around the globe, the very first flying Pokemon they ever saw and maybe even caught. Today, as many more birds are introduced into the franchise, Pidgey is, depending on who you ask, either one of the most symbolic flying mons that ever was, or one of the flying Pokemon of all time. Though, was Pidgey an actual good Pokemon in the Gen 1 games? Or was this iconic Pokemon iconically trash? Let's find out. Now, any claiming to be serious discussion of Pidgey needs to address the following Gen 1 design decisions. There are 4 different normal flying lines in Gen 1, including 8 out of the 151 Pokemon, which is around 5% of all the Pokemon that are available. So, good or bad, the Pidgey line faces inherent competition from Spearow, Farfetch'd, and Doduo. Especially Spearow if you get access to both of them before the second trainer fight ever. We will cover how well Pidgey faces its competitors. Now, Pidgey's first challenge will be, of course, Brock. Now, as with every Pokemon that is not a starter or Butterfree, Pidgey will do very little damage to Brock's Pokemon. But Pidgey is what we like to call the best total garbage Pokemon in this situation. Pidgey gets the totally skillful and fair move, Sand Attack. Yeah, Sand Attack! And with that move, Pidge can help its teammates by denying Geodude and Onix many turns to attack, which you can leverage to strategic advantage, or just click Bulbasaur or Squirtle's moves to OHKO them instead. After Brock, Pidge does not evolve as fast as other Pokemon like the starters or the bug types, for instance. So that means it must be a balancing mechanism for it being better later, right? Meanwhile, Pidgey will be a very meh Pokemon in most matchups and a total dud against hikers. Reaching Cerulean, you would be expected to have a Pidgeotto with Sand Attack, a priority move that has stab, and of course, no flying type moves. Pidgeotto, like Pidgey before it, will be just okay for the second rival fight, as well as most random trainers due to not having enough strong moves, stats, or super effective hits. By comparison, Fearow has an overall stronger move in Fury Attack, a flying type move in Peck, which, despite the weakness of it, hits the common bug and grass type super effectively, and has a base stat total that is only around 20 points lower than freaking Pidgeot. All of that at the cost of a 2-level relative delay and not having quick attack. When the Pidgeotto player gets to Misty, the bird will have exactly 0 chance to beat Starmie. You can use it 1v1 against Staryu, but the 2 bubble beams is all it takes to get this bird to choose another day to go worm fishing. Skipping forward to the third rival fight, Pidgeotto will just have a worse version of the previous matchup thanks to the rival having evolved his squad, yay, and can barely beat the opposing Burb, and easily falls after. And if you're asking what Pidgeotto got to face for the third rival, Whirlwind. Another split of the game, another chance for Pidgeotto to be good against nothing at all. Even grass types will have well enough time to status Pidgeotto and cripple it with damage. Oh, and rock type Pokemon have rock type moves now. Better Sand Attack and pray explosions miss. After Rock Tunnel Hell, Pidgeotto will reach Celadon, and around that point Pidgeotto gets its first flying type move. Yay! Indeed sounds great until you realize it is Gen 1 Wing Attack, which is for all intents and purposes the same as Peck. But way more importantly for Pidgeotto, you get access to Fly, which means that Pidgeotto gets a decent move, not by its own means, but whatever works, right? Speaking of Pidgeotto putting in work, for once, next gym is Erica, and while Pidge would be very bad without Fly, with that move, it is great for 2 of 3 Pokemon. Pidgeotto will destroy all non-Victory Bell Pokemon. Speaking of that guy, our beloved bird has a chance, depending on AI and RNG, to beat Victory Bell, but will likely get out of the exchange, status, or heavily damaged, which will probably not make it enough to beat the rest of her team. Now if you have Fearow instead, higher attack will make it enough to beat this lady up. Oh, and at that point of the game, you can catch a Doduo, evolve it, and get a Pokemon that is better than Fearow in every single front and has Drill Peck, which is stronger than Fly, being 3 times as good against her. Pidgeot will then try to keep being at least as good as Giovanni, which... nope! 2 rock types and a Kangaskhan which have very good stats and 1 good move. No. Pokemon Tower will be the second part of the game where Pidgeot is genuinely good after Erica. Thanks to Fly, it can hit few targets on the rival's team, namely the opposing bird, Kadabra, and the grass type, and can then overpower the ghost with strong flying type moves. After getting the flute, Pidgeot will return to being Pidgeot, or maybe not, now that it will be a Pidgeot, which, as we said earlier, has a higher base stat total than Fearow. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Looking more closely, Fearow has a bit more attack, and Drill Peck, which is arguably more important than Pidgeot having more bulk. And it might be true that Fearow is still preferable even at this point. Anyhow, Pidgeot is not very good against Koga thanks to it not being able to circumvent the high defense on all of its Pokemon, and speaking of Pidgeot not being a very good hard hitter, Sabrina may actually be a problem to Pidgeot, if not for the fact that you get Double Edge, which eases up getting an Oko on Alakazam. That is, if you can outspeed it, which depending on your run, maybe? What does not depend on your run, however, is how Pidgeot is not going to sweep Blaine or Giovanni by itself, thanks to its poor attack and to how Pokemon are being, able to fire back in Blaine's case, and to him having a Rhydon in Giovanni's case. As for the 5th and 6th rival fight, they are similar. You can beat the opposing bird and the grass, and you can help against its other team members, notably Okoing Alakazam if you outspeed it with Double Edge. Now Pidgeot is indeed one of the Pokemon of all time against the Elite Four. It is completely destroyed by Lorelei, but it can beat all of Bruin's Pokemon except for the Onix's, which wallet, and will sweep Agatha, but only if it sells its soul to RNG. The bird does not have any Okos on Agatha, but will very likely be worn down at the 3rd or 4th Pokemon and end up fainting. On Lance, it is kind of the same, but way worse, as Lance's Pokemon are overall better in stats and damage potential, and the champion is just an iteration of the previous rival fights, except the opposing Pidgeot will totally destroy your own hopes and dreams if it manages to land a Sky Attack, which can be prevented if you are careful. In Pokemon Yellow, Pidgeot does not have it better, except for Erica being weaker and more exploitable, and Koga having a team that gets swept by it. Also, the rival, while being generally weaker for other Pokemon, is better with Pidgeot, thanks to its access to an electric type and Cloyster, and having no Pokemon that are truly in fear of flying type attacks. So, how well did the Pidge perform in red and blue and yellow? Well, as bad as some of the matchups it gets are, the truly worst part of running Pidge is how extraordinarily unhype it is to use. The Pokemon whose most distinguishing attribute is being a bird is not only outclassed by, not 1, but 2 Pokemon that share its typing and function out of 4 available, also does not provide any exciting moments for the player like, learning Drill Peck or Slash or being Farfetch'd. Now, that is unless you consider Sand Attack exciting, in which case, please contact the nearest available therapist. Overall, Pidgey is as replaceable as it looks and way less forgettable than it deserved to be. So, what do you think of this Gen 1 Pidgey line? Would you still use it over Fearow or the Chad Dordrio? Or are you ready to toss the nostalgia glasses and cut your ties with the weak? Feel free to let us know in the comments, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. See y'all in the next one.